Afternoon. I'm Emily Bentley, an account director here at Klipboard. Some of you may know me already. We are very pleased to be joined by one of our gold partners, Phocas Software, this afternoon. And we're going to be looking at essential KPIs, which we think every distribution company should measure. So I'm delighted to welcome our guest speaker today from Phocas Software, Sean Benison. Some of you may recognise or have heard from Sean in the past. He's been to a lot of our Connect conferences and webinars and may have met you guys in the past events or meetings as well. But for some of you who haven't joined us before, Sean is a senior account executive at Phocas, who has spent over 12 years in the business intelligence and financial planning industry, helping distribution businesses just like yours recognise and leverage the value of your data. So just some brief housekeeping items before I hand over to Sean. All participants are muted, but if you do have any questions, please, if you can type them into the questions feature on the panel, then we will address as many as we've got time for at the end. And if we don't get to your questions, we will come back to you later this afternoon. Also, the session is going to be recorded for you, and we will send over a copy of the recording after the session so you can replay it or pass it to your colleagues as required. If you are happy, Sean, I will hand over to you.
Yep, very happy. Thank you, Emily, for the introduction, and pleasure to be here with you all today. Thank you all for taking a bit of time and making a bit of space in your diary to join what I hope will be an informative webinar. Today, we're going to anchor really around 4 essential KPIs, really aggregated up from what we hear a lot from our customers and prospective customers around, and that will be gross margin, sales growth, inventory turnover, and budget variance. Now, for each KPI, we'll look at why they matter, where they can mislead businesses, levers that you can control, and how to put it in the workflow via the Klipboard and the Phocas solution. And an ideal outcome for me to you would be that you can take a short list of actions back to your business to help improve each metric. Before we dive in, let's take a quick look at Phocas from above. We've been scaling and really focusing our efforts and expertise on wholesale, distribution, and manufacturing sectors for what has been the last 26 years. Now, by partnering with Klipboard, Phocas really complements your ERP1 investment by centralizing all of your ERP data, operational data, to make insights accessible to finance, sales, operations, and purchasing teams. And together, we provide true platform depth, partner expertise, which results in faster time to value. Our platform brings together all of your data and it connects all of your people so that everybody can do more in their day. With Phocas, you're free to explore your data in a way which makes most sense to you, and with an all-in-one solution for business planning and analytics, which empowers you really to analyze the information within your business, manage all of your rebates, build out your budgets and forecasts, and create nice, dynamic, custom financial reports. And the nice thing with Phocas is all of our products work harmoniously together to make it easier for you to better plan for the future and run your business day to day. Now, I want to just address very quickly and acknowledge maybe the reality for most of you on today's call, certainly those that don't currently use a business intelligence or an analytics platform. Now, spreadsheets are often the default reporting method, and they serve a purpose to a certain degree, but we're continuously reminded by our customers how often those types of spreadsheets can break at scale with added pain of things like version chaos, manual reconciliations, and often dependency on just a few heroes in the business to manage and maintain those spreadsheets. And especially within the Office of Finance, month end, used to take weeks, but after moving to a connected planning solution, that tends to turn into days, and reforecasting becomes a routine procedure for most organizations. Now, the goal today isn't to promote the fact that you need to ban all spreadsheets. It's really to move all of those core processes into a governed, auditable system so that spreadsheets become sandboxes and not a traditional system of record. Now, to achieve a trusted single version of the truth, What we recommend here at Phocas is that over time you consider the benefits of using a business planning and analytics platform, which consists of different modules, from analytics to financial statements, budgets and forecasts, and for those that need it, rebates, and maybe a dedicated CRM platform. But you should start where it makes most sense and gradually start to release new functionality or modules out to the business as users become more familiar and trusting in a new way of leveraging your data. The analytics module is the most popular start position, and this will likely be, from a top-down perspective, the ability to really quickly and easily drill down into things like your branches, your customers, and also your product detail. Now, you'll get a view within analytics of comparisons across different time periods. You'll be able to see very quickly the mix shifts across your product groups. You'll be able to see the contribution of top performing SKUs. And the speed and self-service is what sets Phocas apart and allows for reports and dashboards to be available within minutes with no more traditional queuing with your IT team, your finance team, or external consultants. So in the back of your mind today, ask yourself, if your sales team could see their risk positions and they could have a view of their next best products walking into an account inside of a daily tool, what would that be worth to you as business owners, but also to them as individual contributors? Over the last couple of years, we've made it even easier for answers to be found within Phocas. Phocas AI was introduced to allow for a natural language question to be asked from non-analysts in product. So embedded within the grid, and I'll be giving you a view of this as we move towards the second half of today's webinar, users can really start to ask questions within the grid using the AI tool. And what the AI tool will do is show the steps and the explanations so that teams can audit how an answer was reached. So think of a frequently asked question by the sales team. Why did margin drop last week in branch A? Or which of my customers is buying product A, but not buying product B? And we can make them one-click prompts for managers out there in the field. Within financial statements, this is likely to be your next move, with live P&Ls, balance sheets, cash flow statements coming directly in from your ERP, with the same secure drill down to transaction level functionality. Now, month end is going to become faster. There's going to be fewer manual journals. Stakeholders are going to be able to see performance in a human-friendly view and see side-by-side divisional, departmental, or company P&Ls to stop margin leakage and expense overruns quickly. Many of you will have introduced the concepts of budgeting and forecasting into your traditional business processes and your reporting procedures, and they're even more critical now than ever before and are often bedded into a company's list of key strategic priorities. With Phocas, you can choose simple or you can choose complex templates. You can start to introduce workflows that are locked for the users. You can capture commentary against how budgets are being developed, and you can publish those back to sales and operations, and then start to develop rolling forecasts to allow you to compare your live actuals to plan and update those assumptions on monthly or on demand. And with three-way forecasting, for those of you on the call today within the Office of Finance, you can start to link those movements between postings in your P&L and balance sheet direct to your cash flow so that your decisions reflect your liquidity impact. Now, all of this should help you tackle many of the challenges that we hear from within your industries, from unpredictable demand patterns to rising costs, shifting customer expectations, certainly a lot of margin pressure. Wholesale distribution companies need reliable insight to act fast and to make informed decisions. So let's review each one and see what relief can be found to stay ahead of these types of challenges. Keeping pace with technology in today's environment, I think you'd all agree, is key. What we want to help you to be able to do is automate data consolidation and give everyone within your business a 360-degree view across branches, territories, market sectors, customer accounts, and product categories. Now, data from your Klipboard system is ingested into Phocas and made available on any web-enabled device with an AI backup for frontline leaders to get answers without having to wait for an analyst. Let's talk about inventory resilience. How concerned are you on the call today with how much cash you have tied up in inventory? We want to help you to be able to predict needs using sales orders and purchase history, to be able to segment your product groups by class, by geography, by channel, by seasonality, to really help you optimize your decision making. And with Phocas, you can track that supplier lead time, that reliability, and align your buying to the most cost-effective routes, helping you rebalance stock proactively and free up cash, importantly, to invest and spend in the places that need it the most. Now, margin is always under pressure, and I think the scale of availability becomes even more present in today's economy. With Phocas, you get to combine that pricing, that cost to serve KPI, and potentially rebate impacts to see true margin by product, by customer, by branch. You can identify leakage. You can start to tune price bands and discount ladders and coach your team on mix and attach rates so that you're one step ahead of the sensible revenue decisions that you hope to make. And all of this results in faster margin recovery without blunt across the line board hikes. If you're already using Phocas and perhaps you've got the analytics module in place and you're using the financial statements, the next viable step is to maybe look at our budgeting and forecasting platform. So if you're considering using a B&F module to plan for the future, you probably agree that people are one of your most important assets, and we unlock that ability to address labour shortages by using driver-based headcount and demand planning features, so that hiring plans tie directly back to productivity and budget. And with secure governance, remuneration structures, approvals, all of this can be embedded into a secure workflow and then published back against your financials or operational data. Now, whilst we're not going to have a lot of time to look at the budgeting and forecasting module today, what I really would encourage, and we'll give you some instructions towards the end of the call, is to book a dedicated one-to-one meeting where we can show you through how the budgeting and forecasting tool works, and also mirror that with your expectations, goals, and objectives in that particular area. When it comes to really understanding your customer preferences, Phocas unifies the sales, unifies the inventory and the purchasing data to really help you spot those trend shifts early. And for those of you that are maybe managing hundreds, if not thousands of accounts, that can be a really time-consuming process. So this in turn allows you to trigger those rebuy cadence alerts, highlight churn risk lists, identify the next best product bundles by either segment, and act before it becomes out of date. And the outcome should hopefully help you get higher attention and a share of wallet without adding to your headcount. Evolving product lines, well, we've all seen how important it is to be watching supplier and product trends and the margin and the cash impact of new lines. So for those of you on the call today that are maybe operating within building and construction, or perhaps packaging industries, it could be introducing things like sustainable materials. Or for those of you that are on the call that operate within automotive, it could be looking at EV compatible parts. Being able to see that data allows you to trial, it allows you to measure, it allows you to scale, all whilst tracking contribution and working capital intensity to decide on what to back. And all of this is wrapped up, as we'll jump into very shortly, into the power of visualization. So all the data analysis in Phocas is aggregated up into visuals that tell the story to non-technical users. We have trend lines for growth and margin. We have tree maps for mix. We have scatter maps for price versus volume. And we have traffic light KPIs for the thresholds that show you whether you're winning or losing. So those weekly branch huddles, monthly team meetings, or biannual monthly board packs flow from the same dashboard and build habit and accountability for everybody involved in making your business a success. Maybe you can ask a leader to name one metric that they'll own for next week, and it's very easy to go and follow up and see how that number has changed. So let's jump in. But before we take a look, let's put some real life application around what we've spoken about so far. A great example of a really solid Klipboard and Phocas customer would be JRP. They're a family-owned independent business, founded way back in 1981, and service all the B2B customers within the automotive aftermarket, DIY, and general retail sectors. Now, they use Phocas daily, and they continue to find new opportunities many years after they originally signed up. One of the biggest impacts they've seen is that time-saving element, which in turn has freed up space from key people in the business to get insights out to the team that have aided critical business decisions. And this has in turn resulted and returned back healthy growth in both sales and profits. So now I'm going to jump into a short demonstration to put some color, to put some context around what we've looked at so far. And whilst we don't have a huge amount of time to cover a full demo of the product today, what I'd like to link back to is some of those early KPIs that I mentioned at the start of today's webinar. And we'll be showing you just how quickly, just how easily they can be accessed within the Phocas platform. But there are so many options with Phocas. As I mentioned just a short moment ago, I'd really encourage you to either get in touch with your Klipboard customer account manager, or there'll be some details towards the end of this session where you can carve out some time to really review things in a bit more depth. You've got 2026 ahead of you, surely some ambitious goals and aspirations, and we'd like to think our software can aid on that journey. So whether you're a new customer using Phocas for the first time or an existing customer looking to get new and improved value, hopefully Phocas can be that partner of choice for the next couple of years. So what I'm going to do now is just jump into our demo environment. This is built up from an example ERP1 solution. And just before jumping into some of those KPIs, I just want to explain a little bit about how Phocas fits together. So this is the platform for the business. It connects to your ERP1 system, and between Phocas and Klipboard, we do all the data extracts, we do all the mapping of data, we do all the build work, so that you just need to validate the data that's in the system and also get your training provided by Phocas. Now, each user subscribed to the tool will have their own username and login, and that will allow you to determine what they can see, what they can do, what they can access within the tool. So very safe, all read-only, but pre-populated with go-live dates ranging between 4 and 6 weeks. Now, if you can envisage, we're ingesting all of the transactional data that sits within your ERP1 system, and that is going to be on a routine, scheduled, automated basis, feeding Phocas, and that could be from your ERP, or you could be supplementing in other data sets, such as Excel spreadsheets, CRM systems, or other applications that you have running across the business. So Phocas becomes that central point for all data analysis. And as a customer, you're gifted 3 levels within our tool that you will be using typically on a daily basis. At the front end of Phocas, or at the surface, we have what we call the dashboards. And the dashboards are designed to give non-technical users a storyboard, an interface, a workspace that very quickly helps them understand whether they're winning or losing. And this is configured by you, the user. You can incorporate, you can include, you can embed as many different KPIs as you want to make it very easy to understand where you're winning or losing, what's hot, what's cold, and where do you need to spend your time within the business today. Applications for dashboards can be myriad. We could have dashboards that paint the picture as a leadership overview. We could have dashboards that are looking very specifically at a customer account, helping the salesperson form good, solid, meaningful conversations. These dashboards could look at operational data, supplier scorecards, product categories. The idea is make it very simple for the user to understand where do they need to spend their time today. What drives the dashboard is the unique part of Phocas. So any investment in Phocas is really driven by the value that you receive from the second level. And this is what we're renowned for. It's what we call the Phocas grid. And the Phocas grid holds all of the transactional data from within your ERP1 system, and it gives you lightning fast access to all the answers to the questions that you're currently having to go and look for today. So it's about speed, flexibility, agility to really get down into the detail and make some actionable information available to people across your organization. So I'll show you a couple of examples of how the grid's used, hopefully for existing customers, a bit of a refresh or maybe even a bit of an enhancement on what you're doing today. But for those of you new to the concept of Phocas, this is really where the ROI is solidified, and hopefully you'll be able to see just how easy it is to move around your ERP1 data within just a couple of seconds. Supporting the dashboards and the database, we have what we call the alerts and favorites. So if you can imagine the reports that you currently set up for your business today, maybe Excel spreadsheets or native reports within ERP1, with Phocas we can save them down as bookmarks. And these bookmarks can be subscribed to and then fed out to the team at a time and date and frequency of your choosing. So this stock turn report may go out to the stock controller or the purchasing manager as a CSV, and they need to receive that once a week on a Monday at 9 a.m. As soon as we're saved onto that favorite, that report will then be pushed to our inbox, but we will also have a link that drives us back into the data, into the grid, to uncover a bit more depth and substance to the results. I imagine for all of you, the concept of alerts would be quite advantageous. So alerts within Phocas allow us to proactively track the data and then alert you to good or bad news before it becomes a real problem. So if you can imagine in sales, the typical alerts that our customers will run, that run ERP1, would be, show me all customers that have stopped spending for a period of time. Or maybe show me those customers that are starting to drift off, that haven't completely left, but left untapped. There's a very good chance they're going to go elsewhere. Show me where margin erosion is occurring by branch, by territory, by salesperson, by product group. Maybe I am a packaging distributor and I'd like to alert my sales team to all customers that are buying boxes but haven't bought tapes or strapping. From a stock manager's perspective, show me where we have a very low month's worth of stock cover based on the sales information. From a purchasing perspective, alert me to suppliers that are slowly starting to increase the product cost so that we have a chance to renegotiate or go to another supplier to procure that product instead. And for the Office of Finance, it's all around expenditure. It's all around budgetary requirements. If we're going to go over a budget, alert me early. If we're under a budget, give me that headline so that maybe we can reallocate some of that budget allowance to an account that needs it the most. So as a business, you have really three nice flavoursome areas for your business to get the most value. In this dashboard, we're looking at a company performance overview. And the first thing I want to show you is that ability to filter the data. So in this fictitious example, I'm an organization with 3 dedicated locations. In this case, the US, Australia, and the UK. The first selection I want to make is on a particular branch. So I can focus in on that specific branch, and within just a second, we have that data updated on the dashboard to give me a narrowed view of that branch performance in isolation. And we can continue to drill down into maybe sector or market or product group. But what I am going to show you, for those of you that are on the call that maybe have a dedicated sales force, whether that's an internal team or whether it's an external team, think about today, what have they actually got at their disposal to go in there and make themselves different to the average supplier? So let's say I'm the account manager for Manly Council, and Mandy has spotted that this customer is down pretty significantly period on period. When Mandy goes to see that customer, she'll be using the scorecard, and that scorecard will open up a view into that customer's business to show Mandy everything she needs to know to go in there and change the direction of that relationship. So we have information pertaining to the purchasing journey of that customer. We have headline information. We can see instantly the return percentage is much higher than what we would expect it to be. We may want to drill into that data in a bit more detail. We can see the mix of products that Manly Council are taking from us. We can see the ups and the downs, the ones they're buying more of and the ones they're buying less of. We can also see the gap analysis. So looking at some of the attendees on today's call, it looks like you have a much broader portfolio of products than a traditional manufacturer. So I want Mandy to know exactly the sorts of product groups she should be talking about with this customer to unlock new revenue. And you can see there on screen dimmers and also packs or areas where we can supply into this account, but they're obviously buying it from elsewhere. So it just gives your sales team that extra 1 or 2% chance to go in and really create a meaningful relationship with a good revenue and profit attachment. Going back to one of the key KPIs, we talked about gross margin as one of the key trackers, if you will. And you can see just towards the middle here, we can see our gross margin appearing as a KPI on our dashboard. Now, I could jump directly into the grid using one of the modules down here on the left-hand side, but I'm actually going to drill down from my dashboard to show me where that information is aggregated up from. So one click on my forward arrow, I'm down into the grid. I'm going to select invoiced sales, and I'm going to view that performance by customer. Now, all of these things that you see down the left-hand side are what we call dimensions. These are grouping points, ways in which you would want to slice into the data. Across the top, we have the modes that are native to Phocas, and this will allow you to pivot and change things like the date range. It will allow you to look at different streams of data, i.e. sales invoices or sales orders or quotations. And it will also allow me to look at different measures. In this case, we are looking at profit as a monetary value. We also have the ability to export out of Phocas, and I'm going to show you a little preview of how we can embed the AI into some of the questioning here. But we're concentrating on profit, and we're looking at the last 3 full months, and we've asked Phocas to present a list of customers. What I'm also able to do is introduce new measures into the grid to allow me to see more than one measure. So value, cost, quantity, profit, as well as that all-important margin percentage. One click back to the grid, I've now created a really nice dynamic sales report that allows me to see all the corresponding values against customer spend in the last 3 months. So who have we sold the most to in terms of sales value? Which customer is responsible for the biggest profit? Who do we make the best margin percentage from in terms of a customer base? And the questioning doesn't need to stop there. If I wanted to focus in on Tallahassee, UK, the next question I may have is, well, show me what product groups we've been selling to that customer. And you'll see those columns are retained so that we can drill all the way down to SKU to really understand what products are motivating this customer's performance and achievements with us as a customer. If I didn't really know how to get to the answer to the question I needed, I could open up the AI. You'll see the AI pops out here on the right-hand side, and I've now got freedom to go and ask a question. So what I might say to Phocas is, show me all customers that we sold to last month at less than, let's say, 30% margin. If I just return down on that question, what Phocas will do is it will go away and it will think about the answer. And once it's thought about the answer, it will then present those results directly to me on the grid, but it will also show me how it's found those answers and give me that ability to adjust the criteria or drill into some additional detail. So you can see at the top here for December 25, customers we've sold to with a margin percentage less than 30%, we have 697 of those accounts breaking that rule. Now we could drill down into product groups. We could go and ask follow-up questions. We could ask Phocas to visualize that data to be able to put it directly onto our dashboard. But the idea is the answers are there within 2 or 3 seconds. The next metric we were going to look at was sales growth rate. So we often use a mode in Phocas called variance mode to achieve that view by changing my mode here at the top from period into variance. What Phocas will now do is it will ask me for 2 periods, and I'm going to go with this 12 months compared to a previous 12 months. Now, this could be by sales rep, it could be by branch, it could be by product group, but often our customers want to see that sales growth illustrated by customer as an initial jump point. So this is now showing me the current 12 months versus the previous 12 months, a variance in monetary value and a variance in percentage. So whilst we can celebrate the wins from accounts that are maybe new or growing compared to a previous period, what we're probably equally concerned about is actually where are we losing revenue? The business may be growing overall. We may have plenty of accounts in an upward trajectory, but we can see here very quickly we're losing a lot of revenue, certainly within those top 20, top 30 accounts that we probably want our team to jump on and start to investigate a little bit further. So let's assume I am the account manager for Safety First, and I can see here this customer is down almost 180K, 40% down on where they were last year. That's a very negative growth rate for that customer. So the next thing I may want to know is, well, which salesperson looks after that account? And we can see there it's Jimmy. I want to drill down into what Jimmy was selling to that customer in a previous period that they've slowed down on in the current period. And LEDs in this example as an electrical wholesaler has been responsible for the majority of that sales growth rate dropping year on year. And we can go all the way down to individual SKU if we want to address that with the customer at a specific level. So there's lots of other modes in the grid, but hopefully what you're seeing is it's a bit like a giant lump of clay. We have a question, we click a couple of buttons, a few seconds later, those answers are available. We're not having to knock on the door of IT. We're not having to request reports from finance. We're not having to export data into an Excel spreadsheet. We're not having to use our guesswork or best guess, as it may be. We've got trusted, validated, clear, concise, and instant data available to us in the grid. Now, assuming that some of you may not sit in the sales organization, you may be more interested in some of the operational data. So let's assume you're a business that holds quite a lot of stock or inventory. Maybe you have that spread across multiple warehouses or branches or even countries, as it may be. We want to give that same flavor, that same value of the data to people that sit outside of sales. So what you can see here is I've brought in some of my stock and inventory data from my ERP1 system, and this is now presenting the storyboard of how our stock is distributed. In this case, it could be by branch or by depot or by location. We can see in this case, we have multiple warehouses, which again, we can filter on. And we can also see across our product categories, what proportion of stock are we holding as a surplus and where do we hold maybe a slimmer profile of those categories. We can start to combine that sales and those purchasing trends to see, are we buying in line with what sales are requiring? Are there influxes throughout the year where we see ourselves with a bit of a surplus on sales invoices or purchase orders? We can start to bed in those KPIs that we talked about, those all important traffic lights, to give us an early warning sign of, are we on the right track? Is there likely to be a problem if it's undressed, or is there a problem right now which we need to solve? So those of you that hold hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of SKUs, to be able to pull all of that together and really understand the ebbs and flows is a really difficult task without the system in place to move all of that data. So we can see, what are we holding in terms of stock value? We can see how much dead stock do we have? And again, that's based on your criteria rather than ours. We can see how many lines we have, which we would deem as overstocked or understocked. We can start to see which products are growing. Where are we seeing a higher or a lower demand? How many new products have we introduced into our catalogue, and how are they performing by customer? And then we can start to plan more effectively by bridging in the sales, the stock, and the purchasing data to show you how quickly you're turning through that stock, to hopefully give your purchasing team a fighting chance of ordering that stock to make sure it lands at the right time for the right people in the right place without tying up cash within your business. So you can see this very raw example is me bringing in SKU level information. We've got some min and max levels that we've set for those product groups. We've brought in data from the sales database to show you what we've actually sold by value, by quantity, an average monthly sales run rate. We've brought in our stock information to then show us how much stock do we have currently available by quantity and by value. And we can then see how many turns we have remaining on that stock before we start to encounter some serious problems. So we could filter up to see where we've got a surplus. We could filter down to see where we've got a more immediate problem, and we maybe need to start placing those purchase orders sooner rather than later. So hopefully quite refreshing for people that are really involved in the day-to-day of making sure we've got what we've sold and making sure we're buying in what we need to sell based on demand from our industries. And finally, before we close up on this relatively short demonstration today, I just want to touch on the concept of budgeting and forecasting. Now, you can see on the dashboard, it's staring me right in the face how we're performing against the budgets we've set. And there's three ways in which you can roll budgets into Phocas. One, you may have some budgets already configured within your ERP. Two, you may have a budget template which you would want to feed us on Excel that holds the relative budgets for your organization. My recommendation would be to have a look at the budgeting and forecasting tool, which takes everything that we've looked at today, blends in all of the seasonality, allows you to apply uplifts, allocate those lines out to relevant people in the business, and publish those back as a budget stream in Phocas. But ultimately, you can see the headlines in your dashboard. If you drill down into the grid, we have another mode here called stream mode. So let's assume for a moment we have set budgets in one of those three places for customers. If I change to stream mode, it will now ask me which stream I'd like to compare my sales value to. If I select budget and unselect stock on hand, you can now see very clearly those customers that are achieving or overachieving on the budget we've set for them. Turn that around the other way, and we can now see where those customers are letting us down. So for universal tilt products, we set a budget at the start of the year for 400k. They've currently achieved £10,000. They're massively behind on where they told us they would be at the start of the year. Now, depending on how far down you go in the budgeting process, a lot of our customers will want to actually set budget at product level and grow that up or aggregate it up to the customer performance overview. So we can actually see here some product groups aren't doing too bad. They're spending in areas they said they wouldn't be, but they're also not spending in areas where they said they would be. So it gives us a chance to reforecast the demand, gives us a chance to inform the business that maybe the sell-through of that product isn't going to be as hot as we thought it was at the start of the year. And those budgets, those forecasts can be set again at any level, whether it's by rep, whether it's by product group, whether it's by branch, or indeed by company. Within the financial statements module, the budget also applies. Now, you may be holding a budget within your ERP1 system, but what we're doing here is we're introducing the concept of Phocas to the Office of Finance to give them that freedom, that flexibility, that agility, to start really understanding live P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow movements. So we have those similar dimensions down the left-hand side, ways in which I can group my data together easily. We have the tools across the top to change my date range, to change the way the format looks on that statement, to look at different numerical values or to compare against different budget streams. We can drill into any of these GL accounts here and see our current spend, our previous, the budget, and the variance. We can go and grab, if we were to choose, let's say, department. Let's put department into this nest at the top. We can then start to group that data together to allow us to get a better drill down into that budget performance. So if we go back into travel, we now have our different departments, and within marketing, we can see their contribution versus the budget. And all of this is built up from journal posting level. So rather than having to go back into ERP1, we can simply right click, view the transactions, and that will take me down to the journal posting level of where that spend was aggregated up from. Something we don't have time for today, but you also have the ability to customize these statements. So if that P&L doesn't quite look the way yours does, there is an ability and focus in the front end of the product to really mold and readjust and resurface how that statement looks based on the way you like to report internally and externally. And again, just to wrap up, all of that financial information, the way I see it in my customer accounts, is those KPIs are presented on dashboards. It's the ability to tell the story of finance to people that wouldn't really understand the ins and outs of a profit and loss or a cash flow statement. So bring all of those KPIs to the front of the business, present a storyboard that updates throughout the month, and give those people that opportunity to really remain accountable for the areas of the business that they really own. Hopefully that's been helpful. And hopefully for those of you that are using Phocas today, you may have got some new insights in terms of modes or features or functions that you're not currently using. For those of you that are brand new to the concept, we'd love to speak to you in a bit more detail around how we might be able to help at some point in the future. There are a couple of next steps should you wish to take them. There is a QR code there, which if you scan on your phone whilst I leave it up for the next couple of moments, you'll go through to be able to book some time with myself to explore the solution alongside your Klipboard account manager. There's an email address there on the right-hand side that you can use also. Whilst I leave that screen up, there have been a couple of questions that I've had through, which I'll answer for those of you that have asked questions. I'm not going to be able to get through them all, but we will get back to you directly after today's session. So first question we had early on, we already have the analytics module. How does the financial statements option work in terms of licensing and users? So there is no change to your user subscription. The financial statements module is a simple add-on for the business. You pay for it per entity, and then you will give access to any of your existing subscribed users to the parts of finance that you want them to be able to see, ultimately governed by the restrictions on GL line responsibility, so on and so forth. Second question around CRM. You're not obligated, as the question comes across, to use our CRM. So we have an inbuilt CRM for those of you that don't use one at all. You may be using the Klipboard CRM, or you may be using, let's say, something like HubSpot or Salesforce or Pipedrive. We do have an ability to pull in data from any source, whether it's an API, a SQL database, or a flat file worth of data. So if you want to get your hard and soft data together in one place and give your team one single source of truth, absolutely, we can talk about that, and we'll get back to you on that connection afterwards. Does Phocas push data back into our ERP? Phocas is one way, very reasons for that. Given we integrate with lots of different ERPs, we try and make it as clean a push as possible without trying to formulate a language to push data back to the ERP. So again, would be useful to find out a little bit more about that question in terms of the business case, but no, for the purposes of today, it is a push straight from your ERP into Phocas. Typical project length, thanks for that question towards the end. Typically, for your average wholesale distribution business using ERP1, with maybe up to a number of branches, depending on what modules you want to launch in Phocas, typical project time from point of order to point of go live is 4 to 6 weeks. We have the pre-configured solution to make it really easy to continue running your business while we build the product, and then it's really just a bit of training and validation towards the end. There's a couple more I'm going to get back to you after today's webinar, but we'd just like to take this opportunity on behalf of Klipboard and Phocas to thank you for your time, thank you for the space in your day. Hopefully you found today's session informative and useful, some tips and trips to take back to your business, and we look forward to hearing from you, hopefully in the very near future. Enjoy the rest of your day and feel free to disconnect whenever you need to.